Welcome to Money, Manifestation, and Business, the podcast that shows you how to use your energy, intention, and consciousness to reprogram your money mindset, unleash a new level of possibility, and create a life and business that lights you up. I'm your host, Jamie Berman, and I invite you to join me each week for a dose of inspiration, coaching, and teachings to help you rewrite your money story, create abundance on your terms, and grow your business in a way that's fully aligned for you. This is going to be so much fun. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. I have a super special guest for you today that I am so excited to dive into a conversation with. I have Molly Claire here, and I'll tell you a little bit about Molly before we dive in. So Molly Claire is the founder of the Masterful Coach Collective, where she trains and mentors master level coaches in the 4 fundamentals of lasting change. She is an advocate of leading your coaching business with results for your clients and letting the rave reviews become your best marketing strategy. Molly is a 7-figure business builder, proud mom of 3, top 3% podcaster, and best-selling author of The Happy Mom Mindset. So welcome, Molly. Thank you so much for being here. I am thrilled to have you.
Oh, this is so great. The only thing that would make it better is if we were in person together. And then maybe if we could also be in Hawaii in person together.
You know what, Molly? I'm manifesting that. We're going to do another episode in my studio that I'm calling in Maui, and you got to come visit, and we're going to do an episode together there. So that's 100% a vision for our future. I see it. I love it so much. So I just love Molly, y'all. Molly is someone that I've known for several years now. In fact, she is a masterful coach, and she is one of the instructors. When I went through master coach training, you were one of my instructors, and you are just amazing. I love your authenticity. I think you are an incredible coach, and I'm just so excited to dive into today's conversation so we can talk about all things business, strengthening our coaching, the transitions in the coaching industry and in business, and how we navigate all that goodness. So I'm curious, just to set kind of the foundation, I am curious about you and how you got started on this coaching and business journey. Like, is it something you've always known you wanted to do, or what was it that ignited this for you?
So I would say, yes, I always knew I wanted to do it, and I didn't know what it was. So it's kind of like I have always loved the world of understanding emotions and self-development and improvement. And that's just kind of always been a part of who I am. And I think for most of us that end up here, it's not like it's a surprise, right? Yeah. And I also always had that entrepreneurial spirit. So as a kid, I started businesses when I was, in elementary school, and was taking flyers around and all of that. So that has always been in me. And as far as specifically coaching and this journey, it was one of those things that it came into my life at exactly the wrong and exactly the right time, right? Where I was at a place where I was struggling with my health, had been struggling in my marriage for a long time, was, pretty weighed down with little kids and not feeling well and all of this. And it was at a really difficult time in my life. And I happened to have this amazing coaching session with someone who was getting their hours in. And it happened to be this moment where this approach, this coaching was so impactful for me that it was one of those light bulb moments. Like, this is what I meant to do. This is what I want to do. And kind of, the quick moving forward of that is I started looking into it. I started diving into building the business way faster than I thought, given everything going on. And it ended up being really fantastic timing. I ended up becoming a single mom and needing to really take greater ownership of my finances as I was, raising my kids and all of that. And there was born my coaching business, like nothing
Wow.
like just going for it, right?
Wow, that's
So,
amazing. And I think this
yeah.
is something I would love to dive into because, wow, to go through a time of change like that. And then also, like you said, it's like suddenly wanting to make some income doing this and building your business at the same time. I think for a lot of people, they feel pressure doing that. I'm curious, how did you do that? What was the
Mhm.
energy you did it from?
Mhm. So, when I started my business, I mean, first of all, I just fell in love with coaching and fell in love with the
Yeah.
work. And I just, there's something so powerful, as you know, about using the gifts that we've been given and following what we're being called to help others and to do something that's meaningful that has like a healing positive energy about it, right? And
Yeah.
so as far as that piece, I fell in love with the coaching and I started to really come to life as I was connecting with that part of me. Well, then the business part, because I think of them as a little bit different, right? There's
Hmm.
like they're related, but they're also different. It's like, okay, building a business with the focus of how do I learn a business and make money, right? And then
Yeah.
this piece about the work that we love, that we feel called to do. Um, so I fell in love with that part of it, and then in answer to your question about the energy in this situation, this is what I would say. As I said, I was at a point in time where I was struggling with my health. It was getting better, but it was challenging. And I had three little kids, which is right. There's that, and then going through a divorce, and really, I mean, I'm not going to lie, Jamie. Like I remember feeling more fear than I had ever felt in my life at
Mm.
that point in
Yeah.
time, for
Yeah.
sure. And the thing about it was I knew 100% that I was committed to making life great for
Mhm.
myself and for my kids. So it
Yeah.
really a huge part of the energy that really led it and solidified my journey was I'm going to make a great life. I'm going to provide well for them. I'm going to be with my kids and I'm going to give them the life I always wanted as a kid. And I'm going to give myself the life that I wish my mom would have had because I had seen her
Wow.
struggle. So,
Yeah.
so that was really what led me forward, what anchored me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's huge. And the reason I wanted to ask that is because I think when a lot of people get into the situations like that, their thought is, I need to make money. Oh no, I need to make it happen. And there's a lot of pressure there and it doesn't work, right? That's when like our creativity cannot come through. It does not motivate us when we're under a ton of pressure like that. But when you have a strong why and a strong power of intention, that will move you. And so it's such a beautiful
Mhm.
example of holding so much at once, holding a, going through a breakup, going through the health
Mhm.
stuff, becoming a single mom, and having this strong intention behind the business that allows you to move forward with it. And I think that's so
Mhm.
beautiful and
Mhm.
an incredible thing to think about for people who feel like there's a lot going on. I think thinking about your why and what's the energy that you want to create from makes all the difference.
I mean, absolutely, because, the thing is, I would be lying if I said I didn't also feel elements of pressure and worry and stress, right?
Yeah.
But to your point, those energies are not really helpful for us.
Yeah.
And so the reason I say this is I know that people listening, I guess sometimes I know I've fallen into this thinking it's this all or nothing, right? Like I'm either in a great energy or I'm in a bad energy. And it's almost like when we get in this mode of wanting to manifest and create the right energy and build in that way, we can almost either fear sort of the negative emotions or we can place a lot of blame on ourselves anytime we're thinking or feeling anything other than positivity, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so, but, just like you were just saying, when, like anyone listening here, if you're moving towards something, right, you're obviously listening to Jamie because you want to build your business, you want to manifest. And I truly believe that having that strong why and continuing to anchor yourself there means that yes, the pressures and the doubts and whatever will come up. But when you anchor yourself again, they can release a little, they can dissipate. And at least they're not driving, right? They're not in the driver's seat. They're just something that comes in and out, but not something we need to fear.
Yes, that is so beautifully said. 100%. Not something to fear or resist.
No.
And now this is making so much sense why one of your geniuses and your gifts is helping people create lasting change. Right? Because one of your gifts is it's teaching people the 4 fundamentals of lasting change. And I'm now seeing it, how much change you went through all at once there. And I'm sure there's been many evolutions since then.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you have this formula for how to create lasting change.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I have a lot of listeners that, and this is something I felt through the years too, where I felt like there are so many things in my life that are going well, but there's this one area that I'm stuck on, or I keep having this same pattern happening again and again and again. And I feel like I've worked on it and I've worked on it and I've worked on it, right? Or for some people, it's like I've had this thing on my vision board for 5 years and nothing feels like it's happening. I feel totally stuck. I would love to get some insight from you around these fundamentals of how one could potentially have a breakthrough of a pattern that's been sticky or something that they're really wanting to change and putting a lot of energy and intention into, but just feel like they can't. Could you guide us through some of the things that you offer within that?
Yeah. So first, what I'll say is I'll just break down quickly what these 4 fundamentals are. So one is mind mastery. So this is when we're talking about our thoughts, our beliefs, right? The power of intention in our mind. So that's number 1. Number 2 is emotions and really being with and understanding our own emotional world that we each experience. Because while thoughts can create emotions, not all emotions are created by thoughts. And so there are specific ways we need to attend to our feelings, even separate from the thoughts. Okay. So I'm trying to stop me if I'm, going off the rails with any of this, but hopefully
I love it. I want to dive into it. Yeah.
Okay. So mind mastery, then we've got that emotional piece, that emotional attunement and resilience. Yeah. Then the third piece is understanding your nervous system and nervous system regulation, right? Because the nervous system is the backdrop of our thoughts and our emotions, and it plays a huge part biologically in why we don't stay, consistent with change. So the nervous system is third, and then the fourth component is action strategies, the type of action plans that are actually going to work. And an action plan that's going to work understands the power of the mind, the role of emotions, and the nervous system as well. So those are the 4 fundamentals. And then I can speak more to your question, but I don't know if you have any questions on that before I keep
no. Well, actually, one question I have is there an order to working on those? Would you say there tends to be an order, or is it more of like what you would sense the area maybe you probably need to dive into?
Yeah, great question. I would say there is not an order. There is not a set order. And, for me, when I'm working with a client, of course, I'm adapting to the human being in front of me as I'm coaching them. And in terms of my coaches who I'm training to be master coaches and use this, approach, we break each of these down, but we're understanding how to truly, like, when my coaches get these fundamentals down and they're working with it, what this often looks like is starting with one entry point, right? Maybe they are going with the thoughts coming up for their client, but then they can easily shift through back and forth whatever the client is needing. So that was a sort of long answer, but there is not an order. But I can speak to your audience in terms of this and help them maybe identify where would be a good place for them to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that would be fantastic because I think, well, I've heard a lot of people just feel stuck on, I've been trying to manifest this, I've been visualizing it, I've been doing, the mindset work around it, or I've been taking action towards it and it's just not happening. So I'm curious where
Mhm.
you see the sticky part is for most people that are
Mhm.
stuck in a pattern.
Yeah. So let's talk about one pattern right off the
Okay.
bat, which is someone who is um, trying to use their mind and intentional thinking in order to create something, right?
Yep.
So we'll call this person A is wanting to build their business to a certain level, and they're using intention. They're moving themselves into belief, whatever that looks like for them, right? And as they are working on their business on any given day, this actually relates back to what we were saying. They start feeling a little bit of stress, a little bit of worry, right? And so they start feeling a bit more activated. And then
Mhm.
they start to panic, and then they
Mhm.
think, I'm not going to think that way, right? They're trying to shut down and suppress those emotions and those thoughts. They're trying to use the power of their mind to actually bypass their negative emotions.
Totally.
And right, and so this is where they get in this place of like they're trying so hard with their mind, and they're like, why isn't it working? Well, the reason
Yes.
why is because you're not allowing space for those emotions to come up and be heard, which we can, talk more about. There are messages in the emotions. And it could also be that they're not that by pushing those emotions down, by pushing those thoughts down, they're creating more activation of their nervous system. So this is where
Yes.
they're moving in this stress response, right? Which makes sense. They're like, I've been trying and I'm trying and it's not
Yep.
working. Well, that's because you can use your mind, but if you're using your mind to try to shut down your spirit, to try to shut
Yeah.
down your emotions,
Yeah.
then your nervous system is going to freak out, and then you are not in a space of allowing or creating. So that's like
100%.
one example of a way people can get stuck when they're not understanding the bigger picture of what the whole human being that is them needs.
This is your personal invitation to multiply your income, no hustle required. Join me for the Money Masterclass series on June 18th through 20th. It's a free 3-day experience to help you shift into deeper alignment, expand your capacity to receive, and create more abundance by being more of who you really are. This is about wealth from the inside out, and it's going to be so powerful. You can get signed up at jamieberman.com/money masterclass series, or just click the link in my show notes and get yourself signed up. I cannot wait to see you there live. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I would love to ask you a little bit more about that. For
Yeah.
someone who says, I sense that's the place that I'm in. I've been doing my mantras and it's just not working, or I can't feel it in my body. There's resistance coming up, there's frustration. Do you have any guidance on how to start working with the emotions?
Yes. So I think that if anyone knows anything about parts work, I know this is a therapy approach, but truly this is something that we can all easily use. And I use this all the time. So let's imagine that you're there, you've been doing the mantras, you've been saying the things, and you're just getting stuck and you're having these emotions coming up. I think one of the best things you can do, and I don't know if people can see me, is your podcast on video? Are we on
Yes,
video
it
right now?
is. We are on
Good to
YouTube.
know, right? So I
Yep.
know some of you are just listening, but for me, what I always do, I just put my hands right here on my chest, on my heart, and just take a minute to ask yourself with your eyes closed, what's going on for you? Or what's going on for me? And giving yourself a minute to just notice whatever emotion is there that is trying to emerge. And this is a practice. This might seem weird to some people, but most likely your audience, this won't seem weird because they're, more in tune with themselves, and really taking the time to ask and to have this conversation with that part of yourself that is scared or that has something to say. There's a lot of power in that because, from a nervous system perspective, the minute we stop trying to push down our emotions and think our way out of them, and we attend to them, the nervous system is going to calm down. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then also, if we think about, if I'm asking myself, right, this part of me, maybe like, what's going on? And then I notice there's a fear there. Asking a question just like you would if you were caring for a little child, right? Like what is it that you're afraid of? What are you scared about what might happen? And I think truly asking those questions, it it it's it is exactly like anyone that's ever seen a child that wants their parents' attention. The more the parent says, just a minute, just a minute, just a minute, and ignores
Yep.
them, the louder the child gets. And
So
the same is true, right? So just in attending to that emotion, that part of you, and asking those questions, not only will you get some good information about what these fears are underneath, but it calms and quiets and softens that part of you inside that is screaming because a part of you is scared.
Yes. Yes. Ooh, I would love to get your thoughts on what you believe about allowing emotions and going there
Mm.
and letting yourself feel them. Because I think the
Mhm.
fear a lot of people have is, I'm going to get stuck in that. I'm not going to be able to move past it. It's going to bring me into more negativity, more
Yep.
resistance, more stuckness. And so they just don't even want to go there. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about them and experience of what's shifted, what's happened as you've allowed yourself to actually feel what's present.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll have to remind me of that second question because I'm probably going
Yep,
to forget as I start talking. But as far
totally.
as what it has allowed me, because it has allowed me is like beyond what I can say in words. Um, but yes, so especially because everyone listening to this podcast is aware of how our thoughts and energy, emotions impact us, right? But there is a huge difference between a mental and emotional spiral where we are believing the emotions as fact and truth about what is possible, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of like, okay, if I'm feeling doubt and worry, well, this is just what it is. And now I am spiraling in, it's always going to be this way. And I'm overwhelmed and going to a place of feeling at the mercy of those emotions, which is typically not helpful. Although we all do it and it's okay. We also don't need to panic about it.
Yeah.
Versus what I'm talking about, which is an intentional attention to, attuning to, hey, what is this emotion here? And what is this part of me needing?
Yeah.
Where there is a connection and conversation with that emotion, where you're almost partnering with that emotion, if that makes sense. And tell me if it doesn't, because I'm
Yeah.
happy to articulate that a little more clearly.
No, that is so good. And you're so masterful at teaching this and articulating it in a way that I think is just easier to understand for people, right? Where the way that I'm hearing it is sort of like we call, sometimes it's like inner child work, right? Where
Yes.
it's the difference between if there's a toddler who's freaking out and crying, it's soothing them, it's willing to hear them, it's willing to be with them versus believing everything that they're saying, right? It's like we understand there's fear there, but we're not believing everything that they're scared of, but we're there to comfort them and hold them and be with them through the fear and acknowledge that there's fear there. And it sounds like that's the practice with your own emotions. Would you say that's accurate?
Absolutely. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, so if there's a toddler here and they're
Yep.
freaking out and I say, calm down, settle down, it's not that bad. Well, that's not going to help them, right? That they're
Yeah.
just going to get more activated and more agitated and they're not thinking rationally.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can take a minute and I can ask some questions and I can understand the feelings and I can be there with the child to process it, they are going to come to a place of thinking more clearly and rationally. So you can kind of think about it in the same way. Because if we're attuning to that part of us, that emotion within us, and being with ourselves with that emotion in the same way, it allows the thoughts and emotions to move through and to settle, which brings us that same clarity, brings us to a rational way of thinking when those emotional needs have been heard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think
Amazing.
that I really do think when we're in this space of wanting to create and manifest and we're aware of the power of our thoughts and energy, we can be kind of freaked out about allowing negative thoughts and emotions in. But in truth, honestly, truly, if you are pushing them away and shoving them down, you are not allowing the whole parts of you to be
Yeah.
present, which is what you need to expand and grow. So we've got to be okay with it. We don't need to be afraid of them. We just need to
Yeah.
bring perspective to the thoughts and feelings, no matter what
Yes.
they are. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love this. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to manifestation is I can never feel low vibe emotions or have to be
Yep.
high vibe all the time. And I think that very thought creates so much resistance. For
Right?
me, that thought just doesn't work. And I learned it firsthand from experience when several years ago I went through a depression. And every time I was down, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get on YouTube and listen to my, Abraham Hicks
Mhm.
and get into a higher vibe. But then I was creating more resistance. I wasn't feeling what was there. And
Mhm.
I don't know like how I got inspired to do this, but eventually I started working with a therapist then because I was like not moving through it. And that's when I actually had started doing parts work. And that was so
Yes.
transformational for me once I started feeling and I was able to actually move through that
Mhm.
whole thing once I started processing
Mhm.
emotions and learned how to actually feel and that you can manifest all the things and have all the feels.
Yes. Well, and I want to offer something up about high vibration and low vibration.
Yeah.
So, emotions like grief, for example, are big and deep and they are hard to feel, right?
Yeah.
Grief, sadness, loss, these are some of the emotions. The reason I bring these up is because uh, very often when in the business building process, as we are moving toward goals, people have a lot of grief. We have a lot of grief that is stuck within that. And so, what
Yeah.
I find in working with my clients in building their business is that some of these things that come up that feel challenging, when we actually attend to the feeling, there is a feeling like sadness or a grief there. Okay.
Yeah.
And the
Yep.
reason I bring this up is because grief or sadness, for example, not necessarily a low vibration. The low vibration comes in when we're resisting, when we're pushing
Mm.
against it. And so
Yeah.
for anyone that is feeling any fear about low vibration, sometimes this can be a new way of thinking about it, that if we want to allow the continued flow of high vibration emotions, then what if we could allow the emotions that don't feel so good and that maybe aren't considered positive, because then what we're doing is we're really moving the resistance out of the way, and it's the resisting of the big hard feelings that is the lowest vibration.
Ooh. Yeah.
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 So good. How would you describe frustration?
In terms of, I mean, here's what I would say about frustration. Here's what I would
Yeah.
say about it. How about that? I think anytime we have frustration, we need to just give a little bit of attention to it. And
Yeah.
this can look like going for a walk, talking to yourself if you want, right? I'm really frustrated about this. This can look like tapping on the points. I'm really frustrated. I'm really angry. This can look like journaling. Get it out, allow it to be there, and allow it to be there. And with the intention of allowing that frustration a space to come out, and knowing there's something underneath it you can learn from it. Like it's
Yeah.
not the enemy. But when we can find
Yeah.
out what the frustration is about, ooh, that's when we unlock the key to what we're really needing and what it is we're needing to move past that point of friction.
Totally. I
Yeah.
love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask because I know that's a common feeling in business or when you've been, trying to make a change for a while and it feels there's some stuckness there. So
Yes.
that is such a
And
great insight and practice for everyone. So thank you for opening
yes.
that.
And
Yeah.
it's Friday right now while we're
Yep.
talking.
Yep.
And Tuesday of this week, I was crying and tapping with anger and frustrations
Yeah.
just a few days ago. And that's
Yep.
why I feel open and the way that I do today, because
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. Now, let me be
Yeah.
clear. It feels like a big deal, right? On
It sure does.
Tuesday, I was like,
When
this
we're
is
in the middle of
terrible.
it, right?
And I'm like, I was tapping and I'm like, I'm just going to give up on life. And like, that's what was
Yeah.
going on for me emotionally. And I've
Yeah.
learned by now that we can allow those moments to be. And when we don't fight them and we allow them to move through, every single time I go through my most challenging wave of emotions and I allow that space, what comes afterward is greater confidence, greater strength, and greater
Yes.
wisdom every single time.
I totally agree with you. I feel the same way. And
Yeah.
impermanence is such good news. That's one of my favorite mantras because when we're in it, it feels like it's going to be forever. And it feels so heavy sometimes. But I'm always reminding myself impermanence. And it is waves. It really is when you let yourself feel it. There's oftentimes a breakthrough, or like you said, greater clarity, greater confidence, some kind of gift on the other side of it.
Yes.
So, as you've done this emotional work, that was the other question I had. What have you noticed has changed in your life?
Oh my gosh. I just, I really I went through some really big challenges in my life over the last 10 years as I've
Yeah.
been like building and expanding my business and helping others. And it's kind of like, you know, here's what I'll say. I know many of the people listening, I know many of you listening can relate to this. Sometimes we can do a really great job of holding things together, building the business, making the money, taking care of the kids, doing the thing, even in the midst of our biggest challenges. And that's what I experienced over this last decade. I had some experiences come into my life that truly, absolutely rocked me to my core in terms of um, uh, knowing who I am, knowing my worth, knowing my value, and truly the core of my well-being was really rocked within all of this. And I'm so grateful for this because this is really what opened all of this to me, these four fundamentals of change. Because
Yeah.
prior to that, I was primarily doing mindset work and really powerful coaching that was honestly
Totally.
fantastic. And by going through what I have and learning to understand myself emotionally, to attend to those needs, and to understand the bigger picture, what it's meant for me is that I know that I can trust myself to take care of my needs and have my own back no matter what. It means that I am able to make decisions. And when life doesn't go the way I think it will, I don't question myself. I don't
Mm,
question my value. I don't question my intuition. I just know that this wasn't what I was expecting, but it's not
yeah.
a reason to question myself, and I can keep going. And so, overall, I would say my level of self connection, self trust, and resilience is so much stronger. My solid sense of well being is really more powerful than I ever imagined. And I've noticed there can be moments in life when everything around me seems to be blowing up, and I know I'm going to be okay. And that's a pretty big deal. Like that's
Yeah.
the greatest gift I've personally gained out of this.
Oh my gosh, that is massive. And it
Yeah.
is just, it's so true that sometimes when we go through a dark night of the soul, or for anyone who's really in it right now, there's an equal and opposite gift on the other side of it, right? And
Yeah.
there's actually something that is equally positive on the other side of it. There's gifts in that, there's characteristics that get built. And is it easy going through it? No. Would we wish it on anyone? Absolutely not. But look at what it's created for you and the ripple effect that that's having on the world as you teach these to other coaches and help them implement this and become masterful coaches. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
really,
So,
I mean, it's an honor, right, to be able to, because I see my coaches, and that's the through thread that I see in my
yeah.
clients is, for the first time, maybe ever in their life, they know who they are, they know what they want, they believe they're capable, they don't question themselves or their decisions, and that's pretty powerful. It's
Yeah.
just awesome to see the ripple effect. Yeah.
Wow. So I'm wondering that we have a lot of coaches who are listening. If there was one thing, and maybe this is a tough question to answer, but, or if there's a thing, a piece of advice that you would give to coaches to strengthen their coaching.
To strengthen their coaching. Yeah.
Yeah. What
So
would that be?
so if you're a coach and you want to strengthen your coaching, the answer is actually what I just said, and that is you you are going to have certain gifts and abilities as a coach. And the way that you will be able to best utilize those gifts and unlock those gifts is by knowing who you are. Take the time every single day to pay attention to what's going on inside of you. Pay attention to your needs. Pay attention to the things you want. Pay attention to the things that matter to you. Prioritize knowing yourself and building a relationship with yourself, because when you do, it strengthens your sense of self, which allows your gifts and your abilities and your intuitiveness to naturally come about in your coaching. So yes, like I teach my clients certain skills, and that's fantastic. And the magic that comes about in my clients that I cannot give them is
Yeah.
already in them. And that's how we bring it out.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So anything you're going through is a gift, because if you work through it, right, that's going to be a gift to the world. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So Molly, I know people are for sure going to be interested in working with you, and also probably I'd love to have you talk a little bit about your master coach certification as well, because
Mhm.
we do have a lot of coaches who I know either want to strengthen their coaching, or they're hearing this and thinking, ooh, I like this, right? I would love to deepen my skills.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that program and then some other things that you do so
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
listeners can find
definitely.
you? Yeah.
So, yeah, master coach training, it's a year-long mentorship and certification where it's a very high touch personalized program. So during the year I'm working with my coaches in that group every single week. Not only do you learn different niche work, so there's relationship work, motherhood, family life, productivity. They learn about the nervous system, grief, parent. I mean, it is like it's like all of the niches, and then also learning these four fundamentals. So it's a very high touch, very in depth program that truly does lead with for, anyone listening, if you're a coach, I'm going to be supporting you and applying all of this to you first, right? And then comes the ripple effect. So it's a fantastic program. I have some experts that come in to teach as well, like Leah Davidson on the nervous system, Krista St. Germain, who teaches on grief.
I love her. Yep.
And then we also have Tapping Mastery in there with Melanie Fay. So
a lot of my listeners know Melanie because she has tapping in the money manifestation movement. We have a whole curriculum with her on money tapping. She's fantastic.
Let me tell you, Melanie Fay is a gift to the world. She is so gifted. So she teaches a 5-part masterclass in my Master Coach training as well. So it really is, it's very comprehensive and it's a very personalized program. I think a lot of times we can take a training or a certification and it's like, okay, you get the modules and you get the workbook. No, this is where let's spend a year together and let's mentor you as a human being and mentor you as a coach. So
yeah.
That's Master Coach Training. And anyone that's interested, you can just go to mollyclaire.com, click on Master Coach Training and apply. And it's just, that program is my heart and soul. It's just the best. Yeah.
100%. Oh my gosh. Wow. Where do you start cohorts or?
Yes. And so the next official curriculum doesn't begin until January of next year, but we're actually doing early enrollment right now, because when people enroll early, even if you pick a payment plan, you start getting coach training but you can start getting support early. So you basically can start getting, you can get coaching and business mentorship immediately and then start your core program in January, which is kind of nice.
Amazing. So worth it to enroll early. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So,
amazing. And we're going to link all of this up for sure. We'll link all of everything of Molly's up.
Perfect.
Molly, you are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. I loved this conversation so much and I appreciate you.
So good to be here with you. Thank you. And I hope it's been beneficial. It's been great for me to be here. So thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening. I hope this episode is something that you'll be able to add to your manifestation toolbox to come back to when you need a little extra motivation. If you like what you've heard today and want to take it deeper, you've got to come check out my signature coaching program, the Money Manifestation Movement. It's the place where you'll not only learn manifestation, but you'll begin to live it alongside me and an amazing community of like-minded entrepreneurs doing this work together. Head on over to jamieberman.com to learn more.